Dear colleagues, my name is Mehilli, working in Munich, Germany, and I have the pleasure to chair this session dedicated to left main and complex bifurcation stenting, a transradial approach with Marie-Claude Morice. Everybody knows her from Mehilli. I wanted to start with the section objectives, but I have a little bit problem here. Can you help me with the... Okay. So the objective of this session are first to understand how to select the best treatment options for patients presenting with left main and complex bifurcation lesions, to share the Ultimaster DES result in left main and bifurcation, and to learn how to optimize patient treatment pathway after complex PCI.
Please, Dr. Mamas will give us the result on Ultimaster in left main and bifurcation lesion.
And so my remit today is to discuss some of the data around the use of the Ultimaster stent in these complex subgroup of patients, those with bifurcations and those with left main disease. These are my conflicts of interest. So a little bit about the Ultimaster stent. This is a cobalt chromium stent with a strut thickness of 80 microns. It's an open cell design which allows side branch access. It has a bioresorbable polymer with an abalubinal coating that's graded, and it's sirolimus eluting stent. This is some more details about the stent platform. So it has a two-link design, which allows for excellent side branch access, but also the design allows for over-expansion. So for example, a 3.5 millimeter Ultimaster stent will go up to 5.3 millimeters. So that's particularly important for cases such as left main disease, where you're stenting from LAD into left main and you need to post-dilate quite aggressively. The diameters range from 2.25 to 4 millimeter and from 9 to 38 millimeters in length. So what is the data that underlies the use of the Ultimaster stent in bifurcations and left mains? Well, this is a worldwide registry of over 37,000 patients where follow-up is still undergoing. The registry is closed. And the interim analysis has over 13,000 patients with 1 year follow-up for death. The left main stem cohort was close to 400 patients. This is a very large cohort to show efficacy of this platform. These are the characteristics of the patients with left main stem in the Ultimaster registry. You can see these patients are much older, much more comorbid, and rather interestingly, nearly half of these patients present with ACS, which is much higher rate than many of the registries or randomized controlled trials recruiting left main. And again, this slide shows the complexity. Over 3/4 of these patients have multivessel disease, a third have severe calcification, with very long stents that are required to treat these lesions. This is the 30-day data. So very favorable 30-day data with 2% rates of cardiac death, target lesion failure, and patient-orientated clinical adverse events, which compares very favorably to non-left main lesions in the Ultimaster registry. This is the 1 year data. And again, despite the very high-risk cohort, half of these patients are ACS patients, very low risk of events, 5% cardiac death, 8% target lesion failure. So very low risk compared to the complexity of this group. And this is comparing bifurcation versus non-bifurcation in the left main subgroup. So you can see there's no significant difference in outcomes between bifurcation and non-bifurcation lesions. And again, this is in a very complex cohort group of patients with very favorable 1 year outcomes in this subgroup of patients. So let's have a look at how the characteristics of the Ultimaster patients compared with other randomized controlled trials and other studies. So for example, the Noble study, the Excel study, and ISAR left main study. Oops, let's go back. And you can see the patients in the Ultimaster registry were older and a much higher risk of ACS patients, so 43% compared to much lower rates in both Noble and Excel. Oops. And this is the main outcomes. This shows a comparison of 30-day outcomes in the 30-day subgroup with other left main stem studies. And the first thing that you can see is that Ultimaster has very favorable outcomes in various endpoints for this high-risk cohort of patients, both in terms of MI, repeat revascularization, stent thrombosis, and stroke. So despite having a higher risk characteristic in this cohort, much more likely to be ACS cases, you can see that the adjudicated endpoints are much lower than in many other contemporary platforms, although this is not randomized data. How about bifurcation lesions? The first and foremost thing to notice is close to 1,700 patients had bifurcations in the Ultimaster registry. So that means that 1 in 6 of our patients that present for PCI in contemporary practice have bifurcation lesions. So this is very important to be able to choose a platform that is specifically designed to optimize outcomes in bifurcation lesions, particularly the 2-link open cell design allowing for easy side branch access. So this is the data comparing bifurcation versus non-bifurcation in 1-year clinical outcomes. And again, you can see very favorable outcomes at 1 year for cardiac death, target vessel MI, target lesion failure, and so forth. And this is despite the fact that the patients with bifurcations tend to be older, much more comorbid, much more likely to have multi-vessel disease. And again, these are the characteristics that predispose to adverse outcomes in clinical studies. This is a trial that was presented in the late-breaking trials a couple of days ago, the Century 2 randomized control trial. This is a randomized control trial studying Ultimaster versus science in over 1,000 patients. And here we look at data derived from the bifurcation subgroup in close to 200 patients with clinical follow-up at 9 months. Here I show you the data on longer-term follow-up, both at 1 year and at 5 years. And you can see that in this randomized control trial setting of bifurcation lesions, you can see that Ultimaster had a very favorable safety profile, both at 1 year and at 5 years. And you can see even in longer term outcomes in terms of target vessel failure, target lesion failure, very low rates at 5 years, and very favorable compared to science. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, patients with left main stem or bifurcation disease are complex. We encounter them regularly. They account for 1 in 6 patients in contemporary practice. I think the 1 in 5 year clinical outcome data confirms the good safety profile of Ultimaster in the treatment of complex left main and bifurcation disease, and certainly we will see that in the next case. And I think the outcomes are very favorable compared to other randomized control trials and other registry data using other platforms. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mamas. Excellent review of all this excellent data. Thank you very much.
So now let's go to the second patient that we will see that will be treated by Massy team. Thierry Lefebvre and Bernard Chevalier now. It's a left main stenting, again a transradial approach. The patient is this one, is the stable one. He's 64 years old, BMI normal, 25. And we already treated this patient in the past, in 2011, with the DES on the mid-LAD. Now he came back in a few months with angina class 2. Risk factor, hypertension, ex-smoker, and lab, let's say, nothing to say, normal renal function. You see the EKG, there is very few changes, maybe negative T waves in anterior, but not that much. And he got a CT. We are using more and more CT in Massy. I imagine that we are not alone on that. And you see well the previous stent that is very visible. You see calcification on the right, and mostly there is a clear eccentric stenosis on the ostial of the LAD. Also second marginal that I don't see there, but you see that I think they will discuss that the plaque is also going in the left main, as would say, as usual. And this is the angio. There is a lesion on the ostial marginal that you see there, and a lesion on the ostial LAD, the previous stent, which is okay. Another view, we see the previous stent, which is okay. Distal long lesion, not very severe, but long on the mid-LAD, that you see again there. This mid-LAD, and you see well the ostium of the diagonal, the marginal branch there. Yeah, big marginal branch. And I think that you see there the ostium of LAD with left main, who doesn't look so bad like that. And right, very dominated, nothing to say with the right. So it's a low risk patient, and you see low Euroscore, low STS, syntax score 2, with, I would say, low estimated mortality, both with PCI and cabbage, favoring a little bit PCI. So, to summarize, a male 64 years old, stable angina, left main disease, Medina 010, that you see well there, second marginal, and mid-intermediate lesion. And I think we can go to... Okay, we can go now to Massy to see what they will do with that patient. Bernard, Thierry, we can hear you.
Yes, Marie-Claude.
Hello, good morning, or good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon, maybe. So we are very happy to be with you. You have seen the first case, which was LED diagonal bifurcation, very complex. And now we'll start with a second case that you already seen, bifurcation between 1-0 lesion according to the Medina classification of the left main. Before that, we have decided to... So the key objectives are the same as the previous case, of course. We have used a transradial approach, 6 French. We have wired LED on circ. But before that, we have evaluated the marginal lesion. Probably you saw it. The marginal lesion, which was borderline lesion, maybe intermediate lesion. So we have done a FFR of this lesion, as you can see. In this view, it's probably most significant angiographically. So the FFR was 0.77. So Marie-Claude, you expect or hope that it will be negative, but in fact it was positive. So what we have done is that we have, so this is a cranial view showing the old stent, which is okay. A stenosis of a diagonal with a lot of disease that we will not treat. Next one. And this is a spider view showing very nicely the 0-1-0 lesion and some involvement of 2 very small diagonal branches. So we have decided just to put a third wire in this small diagonal, just in case. But the diagonal is very diseased. Then we have treated the marginal branch with a strategy which we can use when you have 2 small branches, which is stent, pot, and evaluation of the result. So we use a 2.5 stent from the circ to the marginal, which was very diseased. Next, so this is deployment of the stent. And then we have used a 3O balloon, Kansai, to do the pot. Rio, sorry, to do the pot. So this is a positioning using a stent enhancement of the balloon at the level of the carina, and then proximally in order to do the pot everywhere. So you have already a first bifurcation case, which was done with a very simple technique, with 1 stent crossover plus pot. And we have not opened the strut in the side branch because it's smaller than 2.5, and we have no significant disease in the side branch. So the next step is to treat the 0-1-0 lesion. So Bernard has already put a third wire in the biggest diagonal branch, just in case. And we have done OFDI. So maybe we can ask Dr. Onuma to show the OFDI.
Yes, so this is a OFDI which start from the old stent in the LED. So you can see the strut in the 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. And you see that the underlying plaque is very calcified, and the old stent is the approximately 2.6 millimeter in diameter expanded. And the real region really start from the proximal to this old stent. So you can really see this very calcified lesion, almost extending more than 270 degree. Here there's not so much neointima, but I think probably the old stent is 2.7, 2.8 millimeter in expansion. You can see that now still calcified lesion. So it's really the diffuse calcified lesion to start with. Now I think we are coming to the end of this old stent, and you will see some severe stenosis starting from that. So it's still a calcified lesion, but here it's not really too much calcified. You still see some calcification, but mainly the plaque characteristic is fibrous with some attenuation. So it's a fibrolipidic plaque time to time. And this is a really severe stenosis here. You could see that the diagonal already coming into this lumen, and you will see the third wire is coming to the lumen from the 12 o'clock. So this is the opening of the circumflex, and the proximal part of the left main is the also some fat disease. You see some plaque extending, also calcification, but the lumen is quite huge, and I will show you the measurement very soon. So the proximal left main is a very large vessel with a diameter of 4.7, and the distal part of the lumen is 2.7. So there is a huge gap between this proximal and distal, so 2.7 versus 4.7. So it's a huge gap between these two stents. And if you measure the distance from the proximal edge of the old stent to the ostium of the left main, it is 24 millimeter. And if you put the 24 millimeter stent, you still have a room for the pot, because the distance from the carina of the left main to the proximal ostium of the left main is approximately 10 millimeter.
Thank you very much, Yoshi. So, so as you saw, the reference diameter of the left main is at least 4.5, maybe close to 5. The circ is about 3.5, and we estimate that the proximal LED is about 3.5. So we'll start by doing pre-dilatation. So Bernard is using a Ray balloon. So it's a new balloon from Terumo.
Maybe we can show a slide.
If you can show the slide, Francesca. Yeah. No, this is a stent.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ray balloon.
Yeah.
This is a balloon. Huh?
Yeah. So you can see that this balloon is an improvement of the previous generation of the semi-compliant balloons with a better profile, better pushability, and smaller radio-opaque marker. So, of course, we have not a lot of experience with this balloon, but we have already used many times. And it seems that this balloon is clearly an improvement as compared to the previous generation, which was already very good. So now we have this 3.0 balloon. So you went to how much?
12 atmospheres. 12 atmospheres.
So at 12 atmosphere, yeah?
No, to be
12 atmosphere,
sure
it's a
about
3.28.
about your plans for this patient.
Yes.
With by angio, left main seems normal. Lesions looked in the ostium of the LED.
Yeah.
By CT and by OCT, we saw that there was clearly plaque proximally. So,
Yeah.
how will you treat this?
Yeah, so thank you, Michael. So as you saw at the CT scan and the OCT, it's really a very tight stenosis of the ostium of the LED, involving a little bit the distal left main, but not the circ.
No.
So our strategy in this kind of case is to do provisional side branch stenting, so one stent from the left main to the LED, then a proximal optimization technique with a bigger balloon, and then a kissing balloon and a final pot. So of course, it's very important to know the characteristics of the stent that you are using. So the Ultimaster Tensai is a new generation of the Ultimaster with a better delivery system. And we know that Ultimaster 3.0 will be too small for this kind of left main because the maximum size can be around 4.5, but this left main is a very big one. So we'll use a 3.5, even if the proximal reference is not 3.5, we'll use this 3.5 in order to be sure that at the end we'll have a very nice scaffolding of the left main.
Thierry,
So as you saw also, we have Yes?
by the React,
Marie-Claude?
we had from the audience, why don't you use a stand on the prox LED and leave the left main alone?
Yes, because we are not good. And I like very much the idea of stent precision, but we are not so precise.
Yeah.
So this is the first reason. When you deploy a stent in the bench, you can see clearly that the stent is moving just like that when you deploy. So it's very difficult to be very precise. And the other thing is that we'll not be able to treat the lesion because, and maybe we can go back. Can you show again the OCT? So Dr. Onuma is pointing out the problem. So you can see here that we have the ostial lesion of the LED. And when you go back, you have still a lot of disease at the level of the left main.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why it's, in my opinion, impossible to treat this lesion without treating the left main.
So I think the tensai is not so far for the right place. We check that.
Yeah, I think it's good. So in this particular case, we think that it's not very important to cover the ostium of the left main because there is no disease at this level. There is calcification, but no significant disease, even by OCT. So Bernard, what do you think? I think it's very...
It's not so bad. I want to check in another view to be sure.
But what is very important is to make sure that you have at least 10 millimeters of stent inside the left main in order to do proper pot.
Yes, exactly. You're right.
This is why I'm going to check in the overview.
Yeah, that's good.
So our plan was to put the stent exactly where you see it now, at the level of the diagonal branch, because we don't want to close this branch. So maybe you can pull back 1 or 2 millimeters now, or do you think it's okay?
I think it's okay.
Okay.
If I'm correct, Yoshi, we have the wire in the diagonal is not through the strut.
Yes, so the wire of the diagonal is coming just proximal to this or the stent. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's the appropriate position if we want to be side by side with the previous stent, which is probably not fully mandatory because it's an old stent, which is no longer eluting stent.
Yeah, and as it was suggested by Goran, it's very important to leave space to do the pot. So we have 5 millimeter 8 balloon.
Okay.
That so we'll be able to do a correct pot without creating some damage of the ostium of the left.
If you agree with the position, we are going to implant this stent at 12 atmospheres. Yes.
But what about overlapping with the other DES? Because there is another stent there, no? So are you overlapping with the other stent?
No, we decide just to put it...
I think there is no overlapping.
No, it's not
this
overlapping.
DS was implanted...
it's a very old stent.
16 years ago, 6 years ago.
Without any
the stents looks to be adjacent to
proliferation in the stent. Yeah, exactly.
That's what I try to achieve. I don't know if I succeed. Yoshi will tell me that.
Yes.
But that's what I try to do.
So very important is to know the characteristics of the balloon that you are using when you deploy the stent. So the stent is nominal at 9. So the 3.5 at we went to 12 is 3.6.
Yes. So I try to avoid to crush this stent by longitudinal compression when removing the balloon.
So now we can have the pot balloon. Thank you. So for the pot, we'll use AccuForce, which is a non-compliant balloon, and the 5.0 at 12 atmosphere is 5.0, so it's nominal at 5.0. And then if you go to very high pressure, you do not increase too much the size of the balloon. At 20 atmosphere, it's 5.26.
I think we have probably more than 8 millimeters of stent in the left main, so maybe we need to do 2 inflation.
Yeah.
One more distal, one more proximal.
So of course, in this particular case, because the circ is a very big vessel, we'll open the strut toward the circ, and but before going through the stent strut with a wire, we'll do the pot in order to optimize a stent deployment and optimize the chance to go through a distal strut, because we know that the result will be optimal if we go through a distal strut. So maybe Bernard, for seeing the carena, we should go to
I'll go back
spider.
to the spider,
Yeah.
Of course, yeah, of course.
So we go to a spider view in order to have a good separation between the two branches, LED and circ.
A bit more caudal, if possible. More caudal, please.
There is an interesting question, Thierry. There is an interesting question coming from the floor. How to select pot balloon size, by lumen dimension or vessel dimension in OCT? What's the opinion of team there?
So I think you can push, yeah. When there is disease, we make a calculation between LED and circ, so 2/3 of the sum of both branches, and it's the best way. When there is no disease, I think OCT is perfect, lumen to lumen, so it's okay, Bernard? You want to
test again, please?
So OCT can be a very good sizing tool for this, for the selection of the balloon. So we've seen by OCT that it was at least 4.5.
Yes.
So that's why we have selected 5. So we'll not go to very high pressure.
Yeah, there was also a discussion about how to size according to the OCT, according to the EM or the lumen. But I think in this kind of the large bifurcation that the OFDI lumen to lumen is the only possible, especially in the proximal part, you cannot really see the EM. So in this case, we use the lumen measurement for the sizing of the stent in the OFDI.
So I'm going to try to do
sorry, Yoshi, what I learned from Japanese physicians is that if you use guide liner just at the entrance of the ostium of the left main, you can still flush out nicely and through the guide liner evaluate also the ostium.
Yeah, you're right. I think one of the limitation of the OFDI is that you cannot really document the ostial disease. But if you use this guide liner is somewhat translucent, so you can really still see the lumen. So by using this gadget, I think you can really look at the ostial lesion very precisely.
So maybe you have seen
guide liner catheter,
Yeah.
So maybe, Goran, you have seen that we have done a stent enhancement in order to have an optimal positioning of the balloon.
You know, Thierry, each time I follow transmission from ASIA, I learn something, so I really enjoy it very much. And even Var is in the audience, just to let you know.
Yeah, but we see well with the stent enhancement that now the stent has really 2 sizes, and not...
Okay. Pas de copie. Okay, so now you have the stent enhancement, and you can see clearly that we have 2 sizes, one size for the LED, one size for the left main, and the proximal part, you can see clearly that it's not well open. So we have just opened the distal part, and now we'll open the proximal with the the same balloon. Okay.
And we see also
So I
there
go
the
to 12,
under-expansion
and now I think
proximal that you are correcting
yes,
now.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's what we mean, yeah.
He also showed some very nice tips, a little trick that when he's advancing his balloon that he's going to use pot with, one, before he removes the stent, he rails in the guide because the stent is not completely opposed. And then, once he's trying to bring the guide back, he just pushes on the wire, and that kicks the guide back, and that causes minimal manipulation in the left main.
So the other point, as you saw, Bernard, pay a lot of attention when pulling back the balloon in order not to engage the guiding catheter in the left main because you have two wires outside of the stent and one inside. So if you left the guiding catheter engaging the left main, then you will damage, so don't push too much, will damage the ostium of the stent.
Speaking of the ostium,
so maybe you can do an angio
speaking
now,
of the
or what do you
ostium of
think?
the left main, Thierry, we see, is it a calcification at the top or is it dye?
Yeah, it's a big, it's a big calcification.
Oh, it's a calcification.
So that's why you see on the stent enhancement this image.
Okay.
On va revenir en 26. Okay.
Ouais. So Bernard will do another view in the spider.
Yeah, we see it.
Okay.
I think now we have to make a decision about this gel wire in the diagonal.
Yes, I fully agree. Okay, so of course it's not a selective injection because of what we have said about the two wires which are outside. So I think the size is very good. And in my opinion, we can remove this.
I agree.
Yeah,
diagonal wire.
it's a very small diagonal. Yeah, the objective was not to have it close to get an MR.
Yeah, just protection.
Yeah, protection.
So probably you will have a lot of friction, Bernard.
Yeah, I have a lot of.
You have.
There is also a
what
step.
So take time.
Thierry,
Yeah.
there is a step
So now
phenomenon.
we have two.
I have a
Yes,
question
go
to
ahead.
you. There is a step phenomenon in the middle of the LED, this part where the first stent, the old stent with the meet the other new stent. Are you willing to postulate there?
Un autre one through?
Yeah, but you know the stent in the LED is old stent. There is no intimal proliferation in this stent. So we prefer to leave it like that because it was done many years ago and we have a very nice lumen inside. So that's why we will not touch the junction between the new stent and the old one. But of course, if we add intimal proliferation by OFDI, it's a different story. So probably we'll have to do something. So now we have two wires. One is in the LED in the stent, and one is outside. So Bernard will come with a third wire, trying to engage the distal strut going into the circ from the left main stent. You stay in the spider view, Bernard?
No, I will
No?
go back to the
Okay.
aerial. There is no need to expose this patient to this amount of X.
Yeah. Okay. So this view is a good one in order to try to go inside the distal strut.
What kind of wire
So
are you
we are
using?
using a run-through wire. So it's
wire.
our workhorse wire for the majority of cases.
And I take a new one because I think in the left main it's safer.
Yeah, it's
than
safer.
exchanging the
Yeah.
wire as we do.
So third one,
Another bifurcation.
Yeah, usually in
And I
bifurcation
will
you
try to
exchange
go
a wire
first.
when you want to kiss, but on the left main it's safer to use a third wire, just to stay
So you
safe.
see that
It's just
what
the
he's
cost
doing,
of a
Bernard,
wire.
is going into the LED, and then he will engage the circ by pulling back the wire. And he made a lot of angulation. Okay.
This one is probably proximal cell.
Yeah.
Looking for the distal cell.
So yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's a fishing concept, huh?
Yeah.
But maybe you are already in the distal one. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, test. Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
So it's you see clearly that it was a proximal one.
The uncertainty is the fact that we don't know how are the struts in front of this circ.
Okay, probably the same.
So the
but
technique
what
is
you
to
can
go
do is to remove
in the
the
LED
gel wire
and then down to take the distal strut.
Exactly.
And this is what they...
Yeah.
And they will check it with
So
OCT.
when you are not sure about the positioning of the wire, you can use the gel wire, because now we'll have, when the gel wire will be removed, you will have the two wires in the stent, and you can use a third wire to try to go more distal.
We remove the third wire, the gel wire after OFDI, I suggest, because if we are not in the good one, we can exchange again. Otherwise, there is no longer a wire in the circuit.
But you have already a wire in the circuit.
Yeah, but if the wire is not in a good position, we need to rewire again.
Yeah, but you can use the third one, the gel one.
agree with Bernard.
But okay.
Do OFDI now and check the position of the crossing. I think it's very nice demonstration.
In my opinion, we are not in a distal strut, but okay, we can do
I think so, but we need to know where are the struts exactly if we want to check. We go to the OFDI.
So what I was suggesting is that when you are not sure about the positioning of the wire, you can remove the gel wire because you have already a wire through the stent strut, and then use this wire to try to go more distally.
There is a question from the floor for you and for Yoshu. Can 3D OFDI post-pot gives information to decide if you need to kiss or not to kiss the circumflex? Which I think is very important.
It's difficult to answer to this question. Maybe Yoshi will have the answer, but 3D OCT is very nice for wire positioning, for example. So where you want to see if the wire is in the distal strut, you really have a very good information from 3D OCT. Now, if you want to decide if you should do a kiss or not, we'll not use OCT because in this particular case, we think that we should do a kissing bone inflation.
Yes, I think
maybe Yoshi, you have a different opinion.
One thing we should really definitely avoid is that wire is outside of the stent. That can happen if you have a huge malposition in the proximal part. But I think we have a kind of a recommended strut penetration point for the recrossing balloon.
We are ready for the OFDI.
Okay. But it really depends on the configuration of the stent and position of how it is positioned in the side branch ostium. So maybe we will show that one example here, that how we can do that.
So the only problem is that because you have a wire outside, you cannot engage the guiding, so the quality of the image will not be as good as if you have the guide.
Yeah, but
exactly.
Let's say, I think quality is okay. We see that the flush is not perfect, as you say, it's because there is another wire. So
let me see.
So Yoshi will do 3D reconstruction, and I think it will be very interesting to see what we have.
Yes.
Until we have this 3D reconstruction, I want to ask the panel, who of you would leave this stent only like this without doing kissing?
If I can first start, I will not leave it because there is huge discrepancy in diameters. I don't want in front, it's a young patient. I don't with already disease and stent in the circ, and during this procedure I want to finish job and open struts.
Okay, another opinion?
I agree with Goran. It's a left main, and I would respect circumflex artery, so I would follow the strategy that Thierry and Bernard are doing actually.
And to continue with the question on pot to decide whether to do kiss or not, POT is actually just opening widely stent struts in front of the side branch. Does not determine whether you should do it or not. It just enhances recrossing. Kissing has two purposes. One is to remove struts from the ostium, re-establish better flow, and on the other side, simultaneous inflation of two balloons puts carina in the center. So you actually reconstruct natural geometry of bifurcation. And this is one of the main limitations of POT side POT, because when you do POT, side branch inflation, then second POT, it's very difficult to be precise and really put distal marker in order not to compromise the result. But even if you are extremely precise, you will never be able to put carina in the center. So these are advantages and disadvantages. So we need to collect more data.
So Goran, you can already see that we have the two diameter of the stent, LED on the left and left main on the right. So the struts are already enlarged by the POT.
Yes.
Now, Yoshi, you will tell us in which strut we are.
So I think we are taking the second distal strut. You can see that this is a carina. This is the ring of the strut. You can see that this ring, another ring is distal to this wire. So we should aim at this distal cell instead of the one which now this wire is taking. So this is the second distal cell, so we should really go one beyond so that we can really expand well.
I think we can try.
The problem, if you do that kissing balloon, probably this ring will be going toward the LED and probably create some metallic carina. So we should really avoid that configuration.
Okay. Yeah, very convincing. Huh? Yeah. So Thierry, it was your guess that you you were not in the distal strut.
Oh, okay. So this is great. Maybe stop Bernard and make an angio like that.
It would be good to see because we
Okay.
But we don't
so
see what Bernard is doing. Yeah. Thank you.
So you see on the screen that we have the radio opaque part of the wire, which is distal to the non-radio opaque part of the previous wire, which is gel. So it's clear that now we are more distal than before.
Can you zoom on that?
The two wires are not superimposed. Can we zoom on this?
Yes, we can do it.
If we find the right button.
If you are not lucky to have OFDI in the lab, we are looking well to the screen. You can.
So it's a poor OCT technique, but it works very nicely. So maybe we are running late, so we will not have time to show again the OCT. But I think it's a very nice demonstration. So it's just a question of time. Take time to go to the distal strut and look carefully at the wire.
You have time,
so maybe
Thierry,
now we have a zoom. Bernard, you can do again just a cine without angiogram. Yeah. So you see clearly.
You see the separation between the two wires. There is no need for
clearly
contrast.
separation.
Do you see it in the room? Yeah. Okay. So on the left you have the gel wire, on the right you have the wire through the distal strut.
Okay, maybe go back to the normal field.
Yeah.
And
so now we
have to take care to.
Yeah, that was
so now we'll
very
do
visible that they are not at the same place. Huh?
Yeah. So what we have selected for the kissing is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marie-Claude. So we'll use 3.5 non-compliant. Do you want 2 non-compliant, Bernard?
No, I think we can put our URA in the LED because we are inside the stent.
Alors, 3.5
problem for that.
So you know how the
this
wire crossing is actually very specific.
Only one
where you
URA
want to
and one
re-enter into the circumflex.
one
and there was some talk if you're hesitant about how significant a osteal circumflex is after stenting the left main to FFR it. But I'm just thinking FFR, recrossing an FFR wire is not going to be as easy as your workhorse wire.
And not as precise.
Not as correct.
Unfortunately,
but we have assist FFR, so it could be very easy to do it also. So our plan is to use a semi-compliant Riure balloon in the LED because we have a stent, and a non-compliant balloon in the circ. 3, 5, 10, 3, and 3, 5, 10. So very important when you do a kiss to use short balloons in order to avoid the distortion of the stent proximal to the bifurcation. So maybe, yes, we have a better image on OCT, so you can show maybe... Est-ce qu'on peut switcher pour l'OCT, s'il vous plaît? Okay, so Yoshi, when you move it, we see clearly we have several possibilities of struts. We are really in the mid strut. We were already on the mid strut of the left main.
Yeah,
not completely
so this is the
proximal,
ostium of the circumflex, and it was a proximal part of the vessel. So you can really see that the wire is taking this cell, which is not distal cell. We should take this
This one,
cell, which is really the most distal cell in this case. You can also go this one, but it's also there's a link in front of the side branch. It's not optimal, so the optimal one is in general the most distal one. And in this case, after pot, it's already a little bit expanded, so it's easy to take this most distal cell, optimal cell.
Okay, perfect. So you saw that Bernard crossed the strut with a 3-5 non-compliant very easily. No, you don't saw it, but okay. So it was very easy to go from the left main to the circ with a 3-5 non-compliant because we have done a pot and because we are in a distal strut. So when you have in this situation, it's very easy to go through the stent strut. Now he's using a 3-5 semi-compliant for the LED. It should be easy also, or maybe easier, okay?
Okay.
Perfect. So do you want can inflate?
So we are going to open the side branch.
Thierry, are you going to do a symmetrical balloon inflation like you taught us to do?
We start by the side branch usually. So this is a non-compliant balloon. I'm going to 12. Now we inflate the main. And we try not to touch too much the proximal to the polygon of confluence. It's okay, Bernard?
Okay. Deflation.
And we deflate simultaneously the two balloons.
Yeah, because according to bench testing, this is the technique that the most widely opens access to the side branch and removes all the metal from the ostium.
Exactly. So now we'll do a final pot and show you the final OCT if we have time.
Yeah, final pot, yes. OCT, not sure, but yeah. Final pot, final angio result will be...
So Bernard, what do you want to show? Because
I think it will be interesting to show the OFDI if we have some...
without final pot, okay? So we can do...
Not without final, but we need to do a final pot.
No, of course. But we not have time to show it, I see. So if you agree, we'll do the OFDI just to show the nice opening of the stent and the strut toward the circ. And after that, Bernard will do a final pot and we'll go to the time to react.
Yes, I think we can do that, of course. Okay, we need to do a little bit more, to inject a little bit more heparin.
Yeah, so we have an ACT of 290. So if we can add 3,000 unités d'héparine.
In this kind of bifurcation, I prefer to have
yeah, it's very important.
Good anticoagulation.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do an angio and be prepared for the OFDI.
Okay.
Very clean and nice angio result.
Yeah, so I think... So Bernard, what is your opinion?
I think we should check with OFDI and we'll see if we need a final pot.
Yeah.
If I don't do imaging, my practice is usually to do a final pot.
Yeah, so you can see that, maybe we can see again the last injection, but we have a very nice very nice opening of the strut toward the circ without any lesion at the ostium. And we'll see it clearly by using the OFDI.
Yeah, both ostia are perfect. And of course, it's proximally that need probably some more expansion, despite the nice angio result. Maybe you will do the, because you will begin to be short in time, do the OFDI, and while reconstructing the images, do the pot and the final images to constrict.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and I will go to the time to react while you are doing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Non, je ne suis pas prêt, moi. Test à nouveau. Ok, c'est bon.
Yeah.
Okay, when you want.
Just one moment.
I think we are not... is it okay?
Not yet, sorry.
Not sure.
It was one time too much. Have to wait until the image is finished.
I'm not sure with the distal position. No, it's okay.
Ah, yeah, it's okay. Perfect.
It's okay.
Okay, we can start.
When you want.
Yes, yeah. It's okay. Ready.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will go to the time to react while they are looking at the images, and Bernard will do the final pot with a 5-0 balloon.
Okay. Final pot and final control angiogram while they are reconstructing, and thank you for coming to the time.
I think we need to do a new one, Yoshi. Hein?
Yes, yeah, probably it's...
Ouais. Faut le remettre en place. Attendez. Tirez-vous quand même.
Okay, so let's say while they are going to the time to react, I see Ron and Marco discussing. So what were your options?
Actually, I was asking Goran his opinion with respect to whether final pot is needed, yes or no, after kissing balloon, because the result looks so nice that probably you can even skip that actually at this stage.
Yeah, it's an oval shape, and you think that they didn't go very proximally. Yeah? I'm not sure that I would go to pot, but Ron.
Yeah, I will do based on Japanese J-reverse study because they evaluated by OCT result after kissing. And if you have oval shape demonstration, deformation, at the follow-up you have more neointimal proliferation. So oval shape creates unfavorable hemodynamics, and that's the reason why more circular one
to take
is
a good rounded balloon will make more physiological lumen. So I think they are ready at the time to react. So as soon as Bernard will come, we will be able to ask him for the final result. And we have Thierry, perfect. We have many questions for you from the pool.
Okay.
And 3 minutes to treat them. Oh yes, we see also Bernard removing the Y, so it's probably okay. We will have the final result at the same time. If he can does a nice injection now, that would be wonderful. Perfect. Very nice result. Okay. Second question from sometimes after 5 millimeter pot you have only one big strut to go to circ and you do not need to balloon to circumflex. So it's again the question on is the kissing needed or not when you have a good lumen at the ostium of the circ.
So it's a question for me, Marie-Claude?
Yes, for you, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we in the left main we like very much to do a kiss, just because we want to put the carina at the right level where it was or it should be for the patient, because the carina is very important. It's an area of high shear stress, or the area where we have a low risk of atheroma. If you displace the carina, you will have at follow-up sometimes midterm follow-up problems in one or the other branch. So I think it's very important to have the carina at the right place. So that's why we do a kissing balloon inflation. I was hearing what Goran was saying about the final pot, and I think if you use long balloons, you should do for sure a final pot because you have a distortion of the stent. But if you use short balloons, like we have done, with a 10 millimeter balloon or 8 millimeter balloon, you can respect the proximal part of the left main and just have the two balloons in the polygon of confluence where you do not make any distortion. So it's just a question of the length of the balloon that you are using for the pot. So Bernard, you can...
Okay. So Bernard, very good to have
Bernard
you.
Is here now.
It's also from the floor. Huh? What are your tips and tricks in shaping the Y to make the recrossing easy? When you exchange, when you have to cross...
relatively smooth curve. I tried not to break the wire on to have relatively smooth curve, starting with a relatively moderate J shape, and I increase progressively. If I don't succeed, I increase progressively the importance of a J shape because I think it's always easier to go this way. But what is important, I think, is to go first in the LED and to turn progressively in the good direction. Yeah. We have checked, just to tell you, we have checked the final result by WebDI. Yoshi has shown clearly first there is no malapposition, even if very, very proximal part of the stent. So the reason why we did not do second pot. And the ostium of the circ was okay?
Yes, it was, we did the 3D, but it is really free from the metal and wide opening with
Yoshi, we don't hear you, and you are the last, you have the last word, so maybe change the, yeah.
Sorry.
So,
can you hear, can you hear me now?
Yeah, and we have to conclude, so
yes,
please, you have the last word, Yoshi. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so the 3D reconstruction really shows that the wide opening of the circumflex without metal carina. So I think the stenting was quite successful without any metal in front of the side branch ostium.
Thank you very much. It was really a wonderful case, very educative, and we learned a lot from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Dear friends, dear colleagues, I want to thank everyone. What are the take-home messages from those two live cases? I have three. I have three of them. First, and completely unpredictable before this session, the story of the hidden diagonal. We have to make not too much, but enough to be sure that we don't miss a lesion. And I think that's a very important message when you are superposition, to be sure of your diagnosis. Second, I think they insisted many times on the use of non-compliant balloon for post-dilatation and explain why it is important to be very precise and effective for non-compliant. And third message, and probably the most important, came from both cases, that one single stent can have 2 and even 3 sizes. But it's particularly important with the LED, which is really tapering. And so you can make consecutive pots and make 3 sizes, but you need to know very well your stent, because it's useless to take a very big balloon if the capacity of expansion of the stent is not the size that you want. So you saw, first case, they take a trio stent because they knew that it was able to go up to 4.0, which was their maximum size. Second case, they took for a 3.5 to be able to go up to 5. And you need a very good stent to do a very good bifurcation and know it well. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.